as you use your eyes and as you look and as you observe things. For example, if somebody posts something on this wall now, do you know that you're seeing it in the past? You're seeing it in the past. Same principle governs this. What does that mean? Okay, the way your eyes work is that when you see a thing, what happens is when you look at it, the light reflects off of it, sends the signal to your brain, and then your brain interprets it. Okay, so you understand it milliseconds, or you see it by the time your brain processes it. You're seeing it milliseconds later. You're not seeing it as it happens. Okay, you're not seeing it as it happens. You're seeing it milliseconds later. So you're always living in the past. Okay, a thing happens and then you see it milliseconds later. Now, Yah creates us that our brain works so quickly that you don't realize it, that that's what's actually happening, but that's what's happening. Okay, we are always living in the past, and that's what the scripture is pointing out. And this principle governs every single thing in our lives. Okay, praise Yahuah. It governs everything in our lives, and something as simple as that expresses that truth. Okay, because it's a principle that Yah has put in place that governs everything in our lives. So whatever is has already been. So the things that we are experiencing today, you know, you hear people, you often hear people say, man, I miss the good old days, you know. But in reality, because they might be going through something today, they say, I miss the good old days. But in reality, were those days any better than today that you're living? Or are you simply reliving yesterday? You see, you know, we have a thing where, take for example our brothers and our sisters as they came out of Mitzrayim, as they came out of Egypt. They got into the wilderness. They were in bondage. They were being beaten by the moment, by the day. They were forced to labor, okay? They were fed just enough to survive, okay? But yet, as they were going through the transition, coming into freedom, they began to complain. And they said that it was better in Egypt. It would have been better if you had left us there. Okay? So how soon we forget the bitterness of our past. You see? And so we'll say, oh, we miss the good old days. But the scriptures tells us that whatever is. So what we're living today, we're simply reliving the past. We are always living in the past because the past is the future. And that's what this verse is stating. Whatever is has already been. Whatever is has already been. And what shall be has been before. And what shall be has been before. So what we're living today has already been. It has already happened. And what shall be has been before. And what will happen tomorrow has already happened. Okay? But Elohim seeks out what has been pursued, or that which is past. He will call into judgment everything that is past. Okay? So, in every generation, absolutely a quote, nothing new under the sun. And that applies to every single thing. That applies to every principle that Yah has put in place. Even his Moedim, even his mikvahs, even every command, every single thing. So any scripture that we study must be viewed with this principle in mind. Absolutely. Even in clothing style. They were wearing bell bottoms in the 70s. There will be a period, and there has been a period since the 70s where you see people again wearing bell bottoms and hairstyles and all this stuff. It's a principle that Yah has put in place. There is nothing new under the sun. You know, people often says that, oh man, in the ancient days, people weren't so vulgar, or people weren't so this or that. But you know, you go back and you do some study on the history of the Romans and the Greeks and even our people. We were an atrocious people. I mean, when it comes to sexual immorality and all that stuff, they did some wicked stuff. And that's what caused Yah to continue to chastise his creation. Okay? Yes. Now you have people eating people. Now the means or the method that the enemy is using to cause them to do this may be different than it was back then, but it's the same thing we're reliving. Okay? And so it is important to view the scriptures through the eyes of these verses. Okay? Anything that is has already been. Okay? So now, he says, yes, absolutely. The great King James. So, another thing, and this is off topic, but I had the opportunity of sharing a little bit of truth with some people on the job this week, and I'm always excited when that opportunity presents itself. But I was talking to a lady, and I was talking to her about the Bible, what the Bible really is. But I asked her, why? Do you know why those people in England call themselves the royal family? Have you ever given thought to that? Why do these people call themselves royal and expects for us to refer to them as Your Majesty and expects for us to bow to them? Why is that? Why do these kings of the earth do that? And the answer is something that they have acknowledged and they fully believe. Okay? And it is why King James sought to have the scriptures translated into his language. Okay? Because they teach and have convinced themselves that they are of the bloodline of the Mashiach. Okay? They teach and are convinced themselves that they are of the bloodline of the Mashiach. Okay? And so that's why they have people thinking that this is our book and this speaks of us and that this is for us. But you can come along as a second-class citizen. Okay? That's what they believe and that's what they teach. And you know, that movie when I was in Christianity, I was in an uproar over it, but Yah has opened my eyes. That movie, what's the movie called? Da Vinci Code. That movie, the Da Vinci Code, shows that truth. Now they try to make it look like the guy is stupid, but it's something that they truly believe. Okay? And a lot of things in that movie are things that they truly do. Okay? But the movie is all about showing how these people believe that they are the bloodline of the Messiah. It's all about the bloodline. That's why they call themselves royal. Where did they take that title from? Last week, when we study Passover, we were in the Shamut, in Exodus chapter 19. And we looked at Peter, where he says that we are a royal priesthood, a set-apart people, a set-apart nation. Okay? They, according to them, this is speaking about us. Okay? And we were selected. We are the illuminated ones, selected to rule over the masses. Okay? And then there are different hierarchies in this pyramid, because they think of everything in the form of a pyramid. Okay, so it comes up here to the top and it filters down. So you have hierarchy all from the top going down. Okay, but they're at the top and everybody else are their subjects. Okay, and the ones at the top are the illuminated ones because they have in them the royal bloodline. They have in them the royal bloodline. So that is why they call themselves the royal family. Okay, and that is why they do not believe that they should marry outside of the royal family. They've got to keep the bloodline pure. Okay, they've got to keep the bloodline pure. And it's the same thing with horses. You see, bloodline, and there's something important about bloodline. So even in the context of who we are as a people, okay, we are of the bloodline of Yahuah, okay, and so we should be set apart, okay. So how we do not cross-contaminate that bloodline, meaning that we can't be esteeming Yah and delving in sin at the same time, okay. And so that's how you keep that bloodline pure. But these people now, they take this bloodline in a very literal sense, and so cousins marry cousins and brothers and sisters and so on and so forth, because they've got to keep the bloodline pure. Now in horse racing, you hear them talk about thoroughbred horses, and these horses are very expensive and they go back centuries, okay. And so what they're doing is they're breathing within the family of that horse. And so when you have a horse that comes along that runs well, yes, that is why there's so much racism. But when you have a horse and classism, when you have a horse that runs well, then what they do is that horse, people will spend millions of dollars just to have that horse made with a horse that came out of that family but has been sold to somebody, and they won't, they bring it back to that horse. So they keep it in the family because of the bloodline of that horse. The horse is most likely to perform well, okay. But that's the whole idea behind them calling themselves royal, okay. So they are the illuminated ones, and they say they have convinced themselves. That's not the case, but they have convinced themselves that they are direct descendants of the Messiah, okay. And so it is their responsibility to rule the world, okay. They're bringing his kingdom on earth. That's what they believe, okay. But yeah, I kind of went there because I was having this conversation. But let me get back to